Ryan Day cannot win these big games, or at least that's the perception. What's the reality of it? It's what you view a big game. Ohio State fans do this as well. Ryan Day has a winning record against top 10 teams. He has a winning record against top 25 teams. In fact, I think the worst team that he's lost to was Oregon back in 2021. I think they were number 12th in the nation, or somewhere around that, 12 to 13. Maybe they were 11th, somewhere around that. That's actually technically his the worst team that he's lost to, and he's undefeated against unranked teams. Doesn't seem like that's going to change this year. So it's really, to me, I think he gets a bad rap over that, but once again, he does lose to a top 5 team. His record falls to, I do believe, 2-7. Some people say it's 2-6. Some people say it's 1-7 because they don't count the Penn State win, which for whatever reason, that was a top 5 win in the college football playoff poll. It was a top 5 win in the AP poll. It was last year. They were number 4, I believe, or maybe they were number 5, something like that. But they were a top 5 team, I believe, at the time that they played. People don't count it because it's Penn State for whatever reason. Like I said, that's the perception deal with Ryan Day. He gets a bad rep because of his big game record. Well, against top 10 teams, he has a winning record. He's won, I think he's either 8-7 or 9-7. Again, it's just what you consider a top 10 team. Or what you consider, it's the perception, right? Like I said, Ryan Day is getting a terrible rap of it. But once again, he does go down against Oregon in a game they were on the road at a top 10 environment. And to me, Oregon kind of controlled the game after the first quarter. Ohio State definitely won the first quarter. But after that, it was pretty much Oregon's game to lose. And really, I thought Ohio State was kind of lucky to be ahead at the moments that they were. Oregon missed the field goal off a fluke. The 2 extra point fiascos. Not sure what went on with Oregon's special teams. Almost lost them this game, which is weird to say. And oh, by the way, Dylan Gabriel missed a guy wide open, Tez Johnson, on a pick play. I mean, that was your first read. Not sure what he was looking at there, but as well as you could say, well, their special teams kind of kept them in the game with that onside kick as well, which, again, that was a fluke situation too. So I guess it worked in Oregon's favor there. But that's really about it for special teams. Oregon's special teams kind of, I don't know, had a weird start to that game. Anyways, that was a weird game. Overall, I thought Oregon was a better team. I know Ohio State fans are going to get upset about that. I still believe Ohio State has the best roster in college football this year. I'm a Georgia fan, so if you want to go toe-to-toe, Georgia's starting quarterback's better than Ohio State, but you can make a debate that Ohio State's quarterback core is better than Georgia's. Running backs clearly go to Ohio State. Wide receivers, I mean, let's be real here, clearly go to Ohio State. O-line is close. Talent, I guess you'd have to go Georgia there. Tight end, you can make a case for Ohio State. And then defense, all of the defense, you go Ohio State there. Maybe not linebackers, but I still believe Ohio State has the best roster in college football. Oregon's roster, I would put it up against almost anybody in college football too. So, yeah, and this is the real head scratcher here for Ryan Day in his past 5 losses. And this comes to Jim Knowles, too. Ohio State's defense has forced 0 punts in the fourth quarter and has been outscored 70-15 in the fourth quarter. 70-15. That's a head scratcher. That's something that, to me, doesn't make any sense. Once again, his past 5 losses, in which were to Michigan in 2022, got outscored 21-3. Georgia, my Georgia Bulldogs in 2022, got outscored 18-3. Michigan in 2023. Actually, Ohio State outscored them 7-6. Missouri 14-0, and obviously the Oregon game 10-3, in which it really should have been 17. Like I said, Dylan Gabriel missed a guy wide open there. But Ohio State did run out of time towards the end. What a good game. But yeah, the perception is Ryan Day just can't win these big games. Now, what's going on in these losses? Well, like I just said, the fourth quarter has been a giant mishap. Coaching errors all over the place. Just getting absolutely destroyed coaching-wise. Absolutely outcoached in all 5 of these games in the fourth quarter. And similarly, back in 2021, that Michigan game got out coached in the fourth quarter. Now, I will say this: in 2021, the Oregon game, you didn't really. You pretty much got out coached in the first half. Clearly, Ohio State was the better team. In the second half, they just found a way to lose, and that loss was costly because I thought back in 2021, Ohio State was a top 4 team. That Oregon game was just terrible, So, like I said, it's more of the perception that Ryan Day just isn't that good in these big games versus the reality of it. He has a winning record, and he is getting a terrible rep. But Ohio State fans, you guys have every right to be upset. Now, Ryan Day kind of reminds me of Kirby Smart before 2021, in which people said he couldn't win big games, and it was kind of the perception of it. Listen, Kirby Smart went on the road and beat a top 10 Auburn team in 2019, and people said that game didn't count. He beat Florida, who was a top 10 team in 2019 as well. People said that game didn't count. That's not a big game. It's the playoff games. It's the SEC title game. So it's kind of jargon there. It's the wording of what is a big game versus what's not. I think every top 10 game's a big game. But again, it's your perception of it. Here's the kicker, though, for Ohio State. 1-3 against Michigan. Now, I don't want to jinx this, but Michigan's terrible this year. They should not even be ranked. They have a bad defense. Let's say it out how it is. I think they're 109th in the country in pass defense allowed. Their offense is horrific. They haven't had a quarterback throw for over 100 yards since Warren. Back in before the USC game, whoever they played, was it, I forget. It wasn't Minnesota. Maybe it was Arkansas State, I guess. But they can't throw the football. They're obviously one-trick pony there. They're going to try to run the football. Ohio State is the best rush defense in college football, or at least before the Oregon game they did. I still believe they do. If not, it's top 5. So to me, that's a win. But the bigger game at Penn State coming up here in a couple weeks. Penn State's say what you want about Penn State. I understand that they are their defense under Tom Allen is kind of a disappointment. However, they're going to be a top 5 team, and that's going to be a really big game now. That's a much bigger game now than what it was prior to the Oregon game. A lot of people and Ohio State fans thought that they were going to go into Autzen Stadium and take down Oregon. And I personally thought that after the Boise State game, but give Dan Lanning a lot of respect here and a lot of praise because he completely fixed the line of scrimmage for Oregon in 1 week span. Now, if you watched it halfway through the Oregon State game, this offensive line and defensive line just snapped and became what everything that we thought it would be. Birch was out in this game, though, by the way, in the Oregon-Ohio State game. That was a huge loss for Oregon, and I was kind of worried that their pass rush would deteriorate, but it really didn't matter. Uwe Ungule, not DJ, but his younger brother, had a relatively good game there, and he had a couple tackle for losses. I forget who forced that fumble. It was definitely a defensive tackle. It wasn't Uwe Ungule, but that fumble kind of changed the outcome or changed the landscape of the game and gave Oregon so much more momentum. And then the weird onside kick thing that wasn't really an onside kick. It was like a pooch kick that hit an Ohio State player, bounced back right into an Oregon guy's hands. So things just didn't go Ohio State's way. You could say that against Georgia as well with the knockout of Harrison, and it wasn't targeting, sorry. And the Michigan game in which you got absolutely ran over. Missouri, again, it was a bowl game. Ohio State fans will tell you how much that game doesn't matter, but it does. Sorry to burst your bubble there. Every game that you play matters. But, the perception of it, like I've been saying, is Ryan Day just can't win these big games. And the real main thing is he's just getting out-coached. Most of these games against top 10 teams, you can only make an exception to 2022 Georgia. Ryan Day has the better roster. He has the better team. Just be honest here. They're probably better quarterback, better running backs, better wide receiver, better skill set players. Just getting out-coached. A lot of heat is going on Jim Knowles, and once again, he has really revitalized this defense. 2021 Ohio State defense, it was okay, but it wasn't good. It wasn't great. It wasn't elite. But Ohio State's defense now is elite. Just saying how it is. It's just not elite when it comes to playing a real good offensive team. And Oregon, like I said, they fixed their offensive line issues. They gave up 7 or 8 sacks in the first 2 weeks of college football. They have yet to give up a sack, I do believe, since the Boise State game. If they have, they gave up one to Michigan State on Dylan Gabriel running, and I guess it counts as a sack. I don't know. I didn't really look. But yeah, they fixed this offensive line and defensive line. And to be honest with you, they matched you blow for blow at the line of scrimmage. And to be honest, I thought Oregon would be more of a finesse team this year, in which they wouldn't really win these battles at the line of scrimmage. But I was wrong. So, yeah, goes down, but now coming up a big game against Penn State. Like I was talking about Penn State earlier before I got sidetracked. Drew Aller is way better than what he was last year. Got an elite tight end in Tyler Warren. It's not, and here's the thing with Tyler Warren. Yeah, he had a really good game, but he's been really good this year. So, come on, he's really, really good. You got to go up against your old wide receiver, Julian Fleming. Basically kicked him to the curb. And to be honest with you, would he really play this year? Probably not. But look for him to have a decent game. I know a lot of people hate on Denzel Burke for having a bad game, but Evan Stewart has elite talent. And this comes up to my point I made in the SG1 prediction video, if you ever saw that. I said Oregon's wide receiving core was the most athletic in college football. A lot of you got upset at me, especially Ohio State fans, and I kind of proved my point in this game. Ohio State, especially Denzel Burke, were getting beat at the line of scrimmage, and Tez Johnson and especially Evan Stewart made so many big plays there down the stretch. Trayshawn Holden, too, until he got kicked out for whatever reason because he spit on a player. It's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. I mean, yeah, he deserved to get kicked out. I'm not saying that he didn't, but why would you spit on somebody? It's stupid. Doesn't make sense there. And it's still head scratching. But Oregon found a way to win the game. And if they didn't win the game, you could point back to that play because that was a huge stop for Ohio State. But coming up, you got Penn State. Their defense has been kind of a letdown with Tom Allen, but I do expect Penn State's defense to be ready for this game and kind of come out in a similar scheme as Oregon did. Oregon basically let everything in front of them, took away the big play. And not necessarily that Ohio State is a 100% home run hitting offense. No, they have Chip Kelly and Ryan Day, two of the 10 best offensive minds in college football. They're going to scheme up something to get their points. It's what you're going to do defensively. And, oh, by the way, it is at Penn State. Like I said, this is a big game. I don't care what anyone says. I don't really this is a big game. You know, if Ohio State wins this game, you're going to add another top 5 to the record. And this is coming up here in a couple weeks. You do get a bye week this week for Ohio State. But like I said, I think Ryan Day gets a little bit too much hate in his big games. It's just what the perception of the big game is. Yes, he's 2-6 versus top 5 teams. 2-6, 2-7, 1-7, whatever you consider that Penn State game, whatever. I'm sorry. To me, that's the big game. I'm going to stick with the 2-7 there. But top 10 winning record there at Ohio State. Do I think Ohio State's going to beat Penn State? I'm not necessarily sure, to be honest with you. I think this is one of the better Penn State teams that we've seen. And oh, by the way, their quarterback, Drew Aller, is very, very good. Very, very good. So, Ohio State fans, let me know what you guys think. Are you starting to get sick of Ryan Day? In which, you know, he's been there since 2019. Well, he's been a head coach since 2019. He's been there way before. But he's been there. He's been head coach since 2019. He's yet to get you that national title. That's something that you guys have been saying that he was going to get. And he got out-coached by Dan Lanning, another coach in which a lot of people thought that he was overrated and he couldn't win these big games. First Oregon coach in the history of Oregon football to win against a top 2 team, by the way. They were 0-19 before that game, ended up winning that game outright just by 1 point. And it was a great game, too, by the way. I mean, obviously, it finished 32-31. Ohio State just couldn't get it done. Ryan Day once again outcoached in the fourth quarter. Let me know what your frustrations are. I know it sucks. Trust me, I'm a Georgia fan. People were comparing Kirby Smart to Mark Richt before 2021, and the perception was he couldn't win these big games. Mind you, he went at Auburn and beat Auburn, who was a top 10 team, beat Florida, pretty much owned Florida every single season, and he won an SEC title his year too, and a playoff game. So let me know what you guys think. I think he's getting too much hate here, but he does have the best roster in college football. You can almost every year he's had the best roster in college football. He's had national championship quality teams. He just can't put it all together and win these games. This is the point of emphasis. The fourth quarter has been screwing Ohio State over. Let me know what you guys think, and big game coming up here soon after your bye week. You do play Nebraska, probably going to be an unranked team, so you should get that one done as a home game. But then you play at Penn State in what should be a huge and good game. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.